Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Welcome to the internet. This is where I live. My hope is that you and me and all of our friends on the internet can enjoy video games together. And I thought that we would start with a classic, Final Fantasy Legend 2. But I want to add in that sick future twist, because we're in a sick future. So, a while later, and I think sharing an art director with the fantastic The World Ends With You, there was a Japan-only release of a DS remake of Final Fantasy Saga, which is also Final Fantasy Legend 2. And I want to compare how those two games are as an experience, not just in terms of like presentation and what is obviously updated, but as an experience that we can all have together. So if you're down to join me on that journey, I think it would be best if we begin at the beginning with the manual, since the manual is such an integral part of gaming from the 80s to mid-90s.
You're now tuning into
Hi. So, I think that if we're looking at a game from 1990, or really any game before maybe the Game Boy Advance era, did this end with N64? I think it did. I think GameCube is when it started going downhill. In any case, I think that the manuals are important cultural touchstones and important for the immersion factor, not hyper-realistic games. I also think that we are able to perceive bigger things in a little 4-bit image because our imaginations can fill in whatever. It's similar to the psychological thing where if you're in an online relationship, you're going to assume that that person is better than they are because in your brain, everything that you don't know, you process as similar to you. So whatever your ideal is, your perceived imagined ideal, is what you're going to project onto your perception of these games. I mean, if you squint, it's going to be down there in the bottom left-hand corner. Courtesy of this fantastic website whose name I forgot, we can look through this manual before we undertake our endeavor. Using the sick page down key, super underutilized. So on our right-hand side, we have this like badass, befeathered guy in all sorts of wild armor, who is supposedly you. You're just some normal-ass teenager waking up in your mom's house. So we have this sick, badass, befeathered guy who's kind of a paragon of masculinity, but he's not afraid to cover himself in capes and birds. Got what appears to be regular blue jeans tucked into some steel greaves ready to adventure, and that can be you. You're just some regular Joe Schmo who wakes up in your mom's house and wants to go find your dad, and you end up with all of this sick armor. It's a real coming-of-age tale. Look at this imagery. You, me, homebodied goobers, ready for adventure. So for starting the game, don't forget to put the game cassette into the Game Boy, all rights reserved, and turn the switch. When the title screen appears, select Start and press the A button. Uh-oh, it's going. Got really a lot of technical difficulties going on here. Thank you for bearing with me. These pages here primarily tell you more about how the systems work within the framework of the game than what the archetypes actually are in terms of lore, but somehow the concept art and the detail kind of gives a sense of that, at least to me. There's an emotional resonance that goes with it. We got robots, we've got monsters. Despite having the art for the slime here, I imagine the slime looking just about exactly how it looks down there. I like the slime. The slime's my favorite. And then we also have these NPCs who are going to come up. And this is an interesting tidbit manual-wise because there's no spoiler alert. This is just, oh, you got to know who these people are and you'll meet them. No surprises there. But again, it's super comforting to be able to picture them and to have an idea of who they are as we run into them during our adventures. And unlike the character archetypes, we get some descriptions of who they are, so we can get an emotional sense of who we have on our team when we're battling with them, in case the dialogue doesn't give it enough emotional gravity on its own. So we're going to meet Mr. S first, who is a school teacher of Hometown, which is where we live. hometown. Also me too. That is where I live, in real life, in the meat space. Please come visit me anytime in hometown. So we're some of his students who leave, and he comes with us because he is a sincerely good dude. We'll really come back to the rest. We got time. We have plenty of time. I am a big fan of the Final Fantasy Legend II world map because it reminds me of everything that I've ever known and forgotten about Mayan spirituality and pillars. But the idea that there is this astral plane that is sort of an incredibly simplified version of what physical terrain is like really, really appeals to me. Because I think that it has maybe as much to do with spiritual landscape as physical landscape. And maybe it's a dimensional thing as much as anything else. And of course the astral plane is simpler in that case, because it's really just the space between things as constructed by your perception. It does explain the lore on these over here about the celestial world and how each has two sets of the pillars of the sky as a bridge between them, so you have to pass through it when you want to move on to another world. It explains the pillars of the sky themselves as elevators. I think that this is as much a metaphysical thing as a physical thing. Either way, I'm super hype on it. There are 9 worlds. That's fine, it's just counting. Spoiler alert, there's 9 worlds. There are some recommended group arrangements here, and not recommended group arrangements here, and it's good advice and it's fun advice, and it really gives me the sense of other people playing this and other people having unique playstyles where they set up their teams super differently. 4 robots would be a nightmare. 4 monsters would be a nightmare. But if I am honest, 4 humans or 4 mutants would be a nightmare because leveling them up is a terrible slog. It happens not on a linear sense of experience, it happens sometimes. Sometimes you level up. There's no rhyme or reason. I think that this area kind of covers a sense of lifestyle in terms of gathering information. Maybe you talk to people at the coffee shops or bars, what have you, which also have super sick record players where we're going to be exploring large portions of the soundtrack. Shopping, which is, as I'm sure you assumed, less fun, buy cute stuff for your house, and more like we're going to buy the sick greaves that we're going to tuck our blue jeans into, and maybe even also the blue jeans, and like a sick bulletproof. Here is how RPGs work. Just all of this weapon art, it's a little bit more like a Dungeons & Dragons sourcebook than it is like a game manual. Because I can 100% promise you that all 3 of those weapons are going to look exactly like a pistol or a twig. Yeah, I wanted to have a cursory moment for us to go through the manual as a team, because I really do think that it adds a lot to the gaming experience. Next up, let's try having the gaming experience. Cheers!
Well, that was certainly an experience that we all had together. I hope that all of our experiences together in the future are better than that one. In the meantime, feel free to drop in the comments. In the meantime, feel free to drop in the comments what your favorite party is while playing Final Fantasy Legend II. And I can't believe I've got to say these words, and I'm really sorry. I'm sorry to myself most of all. But if you felt like clicking like, and if you felt like clicking subscribe, it'd be fine. I would like it, I think. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this. Have a lovely afternoon. I mean, whatever time it is. Good night.